with Inside Out 2 coming out and Father's Day just around the corner, I thought it was a good time to go ahead and take a look at the Dads of Pixar, and let's rank them. That's the way I like to look at things on the channel. Now, I am happy to report that there are no, in my opinion, bad dads over at Pixar. This isn't a situation where there's anybody who is like straight up trying to murder anybody. Nobody's putting curses on people. No one's being abusive in ways that we have to worry about on our list today. It's going to be a generally positive list. So that's a nice thing to look at. Like always, if you have a suggestion for a future tier list, make sure to let me know in the comments below. I'm always happy to take suggestions. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And let me know who your favorite Pixar dad is. Let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Now, dads didn't really play a big part in Pixar until Finding Nemo, when we come across Marlin. And I really identify with this guy. I'm an anxious wreck. This guy's an anxious wreck. Of course, he has a few more reasons to feel that way since his wife was murdered and a bunch of his unborn children as well by a barracuda. He's very overprotective, but he is willing to go out there and to do things that he is scared to do for his kid. And he grows and allows his kid to grow and be like who he wants to be and be his own person. And so for that, I'm ready to put Marlin up there in S tier, right? He's still flawed and everything, of course, but we get to see him grow through the series of movies that he shows up in. So I'm really happy to put him that high. Then we get to the Incredibles. We've got Bob, Mr. Incredible himself. I don't know. I love Mr. Incredible as a character. I really do. He's flawed in a lot of ways, but his flaws lead to danger in ways that, like, say, Marlin's do not, right? He's putting his family in danger by being stupid. He's keeping secrets, which in a family is never great, especially the kind of secrets he's deciding to keep. I think I'm going to end up sticking him there in the B tier, but for me, B tier is still like, hey, you're fine. Like, you're doing your best. You're doing good. There's nothing even really like that bad about it. Plus, he ends up being kind of open to like changing like family roles too, where he's like at home more with the kids and everything come the second movie. And he's trying to help out a kid with homework, which can be a very frustrating thing. So yeah, B tier feels good for him. In Ratatouille, Django is Remy's dad's name, and I did not know that. Like, I'd seen the movie a bunch of times. I did not realize that was his dad's name. Very cool name. Like almost all the dads in Pixar movies, he comes around by the end, but he's very kind of like antagonistic towards his kid early on. He's like, I don't understand why you're the way that you are. You shouldn't be this way. You're doing it all wrong. And so it is easy to kind of be like, oh man, this guy is not great. But when his kid needs him, he's there. And he adjusts again, and he learns, though he still might not completely understand what Remy is doing or why he does the things he does or why what is important to him is important to him. He does learn to be supportive through all that, which, as a parent, that's kind of all you can really hope for, right? You might not always understand why your kid the way is that they are, but, being supportive of them and helping them out when you can is a good thing. King Fergus for me is also going to fall in that C tier. He's just very self-interested in his own stuff. I don't have a ton to say about this guy. He almost kills his wife. I mean, to be fair, she was a magical bear at the time, but still, that wouldn't have been a good look. So C tier. Riley's dad, which according to some Pixar encyclopedia, his name is Bill. He is going to fall into that B tier. Again, just like perfectly normal, but kind of like a step up dad, right? He's taken time to be invested in things that his kid is invested in, right? Like, he's sharing family passions. They all like hockey. They're all tied into that stuff. But then also, like, he's had to make some tough decisions, like in like moving for work and everything. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to like uproot your kids like that. And so, I mean, it's not to say that makes him a bad dad. It definitely doesn't. Identify with that, even like, hey, I've been there, bud. But also, like, he gets caught not really paying attention when there's important conversations happening. So yeah, B tier is good for him. Not anything crazy special, not anything that's going to really bring him down either. In Finding Dory, we meet Dory's dad, Charlie. He's kind of revolved his whole life around like just being where he needs to be so that he can be found by his daughter who's been lost. And to like kind of sacrifice your whole life in that way, that's a big thing. They didn't ever move on, right? They didn't ever forget or anything. And so for that, I'm putting him up there in that A tier. Enrique from Coco is Miguel's dad. He is fine. But he has really fallen into just kind of like, I'm just doing what the family says and all of that. And he's not very understanding of like what's going on with his kid. He's not really kind of like willing to stand up for his kid in a way that would be meaningful to him, to show that kind of support, which is a hard thing to do. Kind of breaking those generational things, like that's not easy. I'm trying to make not trying to make it sound like he's doing a bad job. Like he's not going to be, obviously, like I said, down in D or F tier, but I am going to put him in C tier. Again, he does come around by the end, but it does take the end of the movie for him to get there. We've got another dad to talk about from Coco, and that is Hector. And so that's Coco's dad, who was a musician. He went off, and it's easy for him to get kind of saddled with being a bad dad, and he does, like for his whole life. But luckily, in the movie Coco, you get a second chance, kind of with the afterlife, to be able to just kind of be remembered. Right. And get a chance to explain yourself. And he does. And it turns out, hey, he's not a bad dad. He just got murdered. So I'm not going to take that and put it against him at all. For me, Hector's great. He works his way back into the family and everything. Like even in death, that takes a lot of work and everything. And so for me, he's earned that place in the A tier. Bonnie's dad is named Bonnie's dad from Toy Story. He doesn't really show up till Toy Story 4. He is fine. He's taking his family on vacations, right, and everything. I'm going to put him in B tier. He doesn't get to go any higher than that because, again, he doesn't really do much. Also, he's getting tricked by the toys. People in the Toy Story movies are always going to look stupid because the toys are pulling stuff over on him. But, he seems like a real nice, caring dude. He's like the most normal looking person I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, I feel like I've known 18 guys that look just like Bonnie's dad. In the movie Onward, Wilden is the dad. And again, we've got a dead dad. And so he's going to get a lot of grace because we don't really see a ton of his mistakes or anything. I'm going to put him high. I'm going to put him in A tier because he inspires like his oldest to be the kind of guy who, that when his youngest really gets a chance to like go and meet him, even he realizes like, well, like I've had a dad. Like you have been there for me in the way that a dad could be. And if you can inspire and help a kid that's so little to grow into that kind of a person and be there for a younger sibling in that way, that's beautiful. That's good stuff. That's all you can hope for. Like, is that you can set your kids up for success, like that when you're gone. And you don't want it to be that soon. You don't want your kid to have to be that put together that soon, obviously. But he's great. And, even though he's just half of a character, like literally just legs for most of the movie, it's a good dude. And, I'm glad they get a chance to see him and everything. So he gets to be, in there in that A tier. Now the dad in Soul, Ray, you don't get a ton of time with him. He's in some flashbacks and everything, but he's sharing his passions with his kid. And those passions go on to, inspire and go on to like lead his kid to want to, do music as a career and everything, and to have that be like what is driving him, and that's a big thing. That's a cool thing, and I think that it deserves to bump him into that B tier. Again, you don't get a ton of time with him, so nothing's going to drag him down, but yeah, it just seems like the right place to put him. In Luca, we're going to have a couple dads to talk about. First off, we've got Enzo. So this is Jim Gaffigan, right? Which is so funny to me. It's perfect. He's got that big old mustache. He looks like a dad, like a fish person dad. But again, he's one of those that doesn't kind of turn around and come around to everything until the end of the movie. So I'm going to put him in that C tier. He's actively trying to go and find his kid, which is good, right? His kid has run away, so he's not like being just like passive and not going after him. So that's good at least. But he's going after him to try to like drag him back into like this is how we do things kind of stuff. And so, I don't know, C just feels right. But then we got Massimo, and I love this guy. I love him. A gentle giant, right? This is my kind of guy. Now he gets to be on the list here because he's Julia's dad. And he's the kind of dad, you want to be, or at least I want to be, like, and where he is inviting to his kids' friends, right? He welcomes them into their home. This is the kind of dad that I was fortunate enough to have. Somebody who, is very, though they might not seem like the most friendly right off the bat, not that they are welcoming, and they are kind, and they are wanting to help and teach and all these things, and they're patient. He's super patient, especially like in the short where it's just him and Alberto like together. I just rewatched it before doing this list, and I had to make sure that my eyes were all dried and not red anymore because I was crying at the end. That's not an odd thing. I'll cry at movies all the time. I mention it on the channel all the time. But like, he is just so ready to just be there in the ways that are important, in the ways that matter. And I think it's beautiful. And he's an S tier dad because of it. Jin from Turning Red, he again is pretty normal, but he's also having to put up with a lot of crazy stuff. He's married into this magical family where the women are turning into giant red pandas. And he keeps it together. He does a pretty good job at keeping it all together. So I think you at least got to bump him up from C tier. He's doing the best he can, but the story's not really about him, so he doesn't get a ton of moments to really, really shine. And then we get to the newest Pixar movie where we've got Bernie. And so Bernie, at first it might seem like he's going to be kind of lower on the list, but this guy has given everything for his kid, right? He left his entire world, right? His entire home where everybody was like him, to go and to be in this place where he was thinking he could give like better opportunities for his family. It's just an immigrant story, right? And that's what it's all about. And then it's the story about him having to be like open again to things changing. And he chooses to be there for his kid in a way that his family wasn't there for him. And again, it's one of those things that it's just so nice. Like I find myself when I'm crying at these things or getting emotional at these things, just saying to myself, "Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice." And it's just, you hope you can be that, right? You hope you can be nice like that. You would want a dad that could be nice like that and giving like that. So anyway, great. He's a great guy. Hey, but you know what? There's a couple people on this list that didn't get mentioned, and you might notice that they're not there. And I want to let you know I'm considering those guys bonus dads. So we got 2 bonus dads on here. One of them is Mr. Potato Head. Throwing him on there. He does kind of adopt the LGMs, the little green men, in Toy Story 2. And so you actually get to see him be a dad in more movies than any of these other guys. And he does care for these little creatures. It's a weird thing, right, that he is taking care of them. They don't need a dad. They're not really any different than all the other toys and everything, right? It's a weird thing, but he does care for them. He does get roped into it from his wife, but he doesn't do it like in a super begrudging way. Like he's not super into it at first, but he owns up to it. He takes care of them. I'm giving Mr. Potato Head he's putting his life on the line for these kids. So yeah, he deserves it. And then the second bonus dad, I'm putting Carl from Up here on the tier list. And he's got to be up at the top. He's got to be S tier. Now you could argue he's maybe more of a grandfather figure. I'm saying I don't care. I want Carl on the list, and he's got to be up at the very top of it. It's a beautiful story. Up is so good, and people talk about the beginning of Up all the time. It's so sad. It's beautiful. It's telling a whole story. And then Up gets really weird. It really does. There's talking dogs that are flying airplanes as they're hunting down this giant weird bird. But it is such a good story. And like him and Russell and just him being there at the end when he gives him the badge, it's just so nice, guys. It's just so nice. So he's obviously in that S tier. And so there it is. There's a time to take a look and just kind of be like, hey, dads are great. Now, at first I was going to do Pixar and Disney dads, but then I realized there's enough dads in Pixar just to kind of talk about here. But maybe someday we can do that and just kind of rank Disney dads in there. I would not be surprised we see some lower tiered people, but here it was a pleasant pleasant surprise to see that, you know, pretty much all these guys were at least decent. And so, yeah, there it is. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time for the next video. Until then, take care. Bye.